Hello everybody, I am here with Elle, Tantra teacher from Belgium that I met already some years ago, and we actually just finished a Tantra retreat here in Portugal. And in a month, end of April, I invited her to come to Lalita in Acebo, Caceres in Spain to facilitate Tantra days also there. And the days are called Crazy Wisdom, and this little video is meant to give you an idea of what we will be doing there, of clarifying some doubts you might have, and also so you can get a first sense of Elle. So welcome.
Thank you.
Maybe tell us first a little bit how you came onto the path of Tantra and what Tantra means to you.
Well, everybody comes to the path from their own experience, so it's very, very different. I came on the path as an artist, developing a practice around hope. So I was looking for mechanics or methods that would produce hope. So we would produce more hope in society, which is very necessary these days. And I came upon embodied practices of the spiritual, so spiritual practices that kind of are entered into through the body. And I found this very interesting to have a practice that would include the body and not say that it's just a thing that we have to work with but actually forget about in our spiritual practice. And I started studying Tantra also because it not only included the body, but also negative emotions, which were kind of rife in my life, like impatience, anger, sadness, frustration, that it became a really fertile ground for Tantra to grow love and compassion and insight and harmony in your life. So that these two are intimately connected and that you can not forget about one part and then do your spiritual exercises in a pure state, which didn't fit with my practice and my experience of how life works. So working with these kind of shadow parts of life, right, the darker sides of life as a growing ground for the spiritual practice spoke very much to me, and I felt immediately at home in the Tantra, which also means indeed there's two big fields in the Tantra that interest me, the work around death and the work around sexuality, which are very much part of the Tantric work. And so these coming together of a practice of celebrating life and the vital part of life and celebrating death as kind of feeding the vital part of life. That's where everything comes together for me, and that's a bit the guiding line in my practice.
Mm-hmm. And what is the style of Tantra that you teach? Because there are so many styles, right? There's what people call the ancient and the neo-Tantra and the white and the red and the pink, and we might not even know what that is. So can you give us maybe a little summary and say where you situate yourself on the scale?
Yeah, well, I love the paradox of Tantra. Like, it's about disciplined liberation. It is about embodied lightness. Tantra always brings together two things that don't seem to fit, but in the practice make total sense. So I call my Tantra Shadow Tantra, which is actually an oxymoron because every Tantra is Shadow Tantra or includes shadow elements. But I put that emphasis there because I want to distinguish it a little bit of what I started calling pleasure Tantra, a Tantra that is kind of oriented towards more pleasure and feeling good in your body all the time and doing exactly what you want. Because I also kind of lean back into the ancient Tantra that is really quite dry. It has like elements of...
We've been doing it.
Yes, we've been doing it this week. So how I have one leg in the classical Tantra where you work a lot on breathing and moving the energy through the body and being quite aware of what you are doing. And then the wild part or the crazy wisdom that comes also in the Neo-Tantra, so in the new Tantra, where you work with these negative emotions, where you work with desire, where you work with a lot with a partner, which you don't do so much in the classical Tantra. Why? Because your partner is also a mirror to kind of make you see your fear, make you see what you long for, make you see what you're lacking, make you see what are your patterns in life, so that you can kind of unpack them and change them if you want to, or just become more aware of them. So it's this combination, the shadow, the juice, of course, also, and then these kind of more disciplined methods to go further in your practice. So.
From my experience with Elle, I can really say that she has a really nice blend, and that her distinguishing factor almost is to have also these more classical practices in it. Like, she's really good at teaching the technology of the body, energy, and this is like such a game changer. So I can just talk from my experience here that I really appreciate your work. Clarify a bit more the role of sex here, because I know many people think it's the same. Like, when they hear the word Tantra, they think we're all gonna be naked and everybody's having sex together, and some people want that and are like, yeah, and if you don't get naked, it's not Tantra, and others are like, ooh, so Tantra, that means we're gonna be touching ourselves a lot, and I don't want that. So help us see a bit more clearly.
So to be clear, this weekend there's no nakedness, there is touch, but aware touch. So it's not about just being all over each other, doing this also in a certain kind of framework in which you understand what's happening in that touch. It's also about the subtleties of imagination, of shape shifting, so trying to feel the sensations of the other body, creating circles between two bodies energetically, emotionally. So we are connecting on a very intimate level, but not on a sexual level. So there's a big difference that is not often made. Intimacy is a totally different thing than sexuality in itself, whatever we mean by that, because it's a very broad term. Yeah? But losing the shape of one's own body to melt into the body of the other, which can be done even without touch, that is certainly a part of the teachings.
Yeah, and we, like, for example, also in this week, we worked a lot with the sexual energy, but we didn't get sexual and we didn't get naked. And I think even in the classical Tantra, it's like not even been a focus, right? It's been like...
Yeah, in the classical Tantra, the sexual practices are only done after 20 years of practice and are very, very minimal. Also are not at all linked to pleasure, but quite the contrary. The sexual practices are not pleasure-based. They are really about breaking taboos about what you think is possible, is not possible in your culture, in your life, in your upbringing. We live in a very different culture in which sexuality doesn't have that big taboo anymore, although sometimes when you listen to your own body, there's more taboo than you would think. So I would be more interested in you recognizing your taboo than you necessarily stepping into free sexuality with your partners, which might happen, but also in my teachings only after a long time, and only if it makes absolute sense for your spiritual development.
So what else can people expect from the Crazy Wisdom Days? Like, I know that you really feel the group and you decide the practices also in part, at least on the spot, even though you might have a structure. But like, if you can give us just a general idea of what we will be working on.
So,
what is Crazy Wisdom?
Well, Crazy Wisdom is a kind of a container name for the teachings of the Tantra that are unusual or unexpected. So in my practice, I am not the screaming teacher or the one that throws you through the window, which some of the Tantric teachers actually really did. I'm a bit more soft in that, but I will kind of invite you to enlarge your perception of what this body can do, of what is the polite connection you make with a partner, to kind of broaden up the ways we normally associate, come together, stepping out of the rules of what is allowed and what is not allowed, which doesn't mean we're just going for great transgressive modes. It can be very small and very subtle. Also, kind of, what are the limits of this body? What is the limit of the human? What if this body also has animal aspects, has even vegetal aspects, has ghostly aspects? So shape-shifting in that sense is certainly part of the training, and also the relation to the other and opening up all the layers of what that can be. So shape-shifting, the imagination of relation, I would say, is very much part of this work.
I hear pattern disruption also a lot.
Yes,
there.
Habit disruption, pattern disruption.
So, if you feel at all curious, then I would just say drop any expectations, any patterns around what you might be looking for, what you might want to experience, and just trust this inner little intuition and come and experience for yourself, because in the end Tantra is a very experiential practice, and I can only say that with Elle it will definitely be worth it. So I hope to see you there, and thank you a lot.
Hope to see you there.